Hello everyone, welcome back to Airdrie Public Library Virtual Programming. I'm Adam, and last week we worked on our little Mario game here a little bit. This week we are going to learn a little bit about what is a linked list, and then we're going to use it. So let's jump right into that. So I'm sure I've talked about arrays before. Arrays are like a shopping list here. We have our list called shopping, and on it we have items like apples, bananas, bread, and milk. A linked list is kind of like our array, but a little bit different. It's more like a scavenger hunt. So you'll have like one flag here that says one piece of your information. So maybe this one says apples. And then it leads you to the next flag. And the next flag has a note attached to it that says bananas. And then that flag has a note attached to it which leads you to another flag. And that flag tells you bread. So each flag, or we'll call them nodes, are attached to another one and contain one piece of information. And that's how it's different. So we're going to use this in our game by making the chunks of our ground pieces a linked list. So we'll have our one piece that looks like this maybe, and then that one will connect to one that looks like this. And then that one will connect to one that looks maybe like this. And then maybe if we really want to, we can have the last one link all the way back to the first one. And it creates a very dynamic game. So let's see if we can implement that. We're going to make pretty much duplicates of this ground, and we're going to line them up so that as they come by, as we run through this, when we get to the end of one, this next one is going to show up. Oops, this next one is going to show up like over here, and then we can walk onto that one. And as this one comes by, this previous one will disappear, and then a next one will show up. And that'll be our kind of version of this linked list. So each one knows that the one after it, but that's pretty much all it is. Okay, so let's get started here. Let's get rid of ground 2 for now, because we'll recreate it in a second once we're done with all of our stuff on ground 1. Let's call this ground 1. Alright, so when the flag is clicked, we do all of our movement stuff. This is good. We'll keep this stuff and we'll actually copy it over onto our other grounds so they all move the same. For this one though, we're going to be instead using when I start as a clone. So let's hide this for now, and I can actually move all of this stuff as into when I start as a clone. And maybe we want to reset it. So let's just show it real quick and put it somewhere where we want it to start. We can pause the game so that we can position it perfectly without it moving on us because of gravity. And then when we pull out this go to, it'll go to automatically where this is now. So we can unshow this, and maybe under Ben, we have Ben start us off. So Ben will create a clone of ground 1. That did not work because the ground 1 is still invisible and we need to make it visible. We're going to show it immediately. So we're going to set its position and show. Start. There we go. Now it's popping up. And then I can move him all the way to the right here or something. And when I hit go again, it'll pop us back at the start. Perfect. So let's make another when I start as a clone. This will just help us separate everything. And that is in control. We're going to use a forever loop, just like usual. And this will be where we control the spawning of the next one and the despawning of ourself as well. So let's create a new variable. This will come in handy later. This is for this sprite only. And we say, we'll call it next spawned. Okay. Let's go under if. Pull out, I think we just need a regular if statement for this one. And operators. So there's two things we want to check. We want to check that the next one hasn't spawned yet, and we want to check that we're in the right position to spawn the next one. So if our X position, that will be in motion. Our X position is less than, let's see, so let's stop this. We can show this, and let's put it somewhere we want it to go. I just want to extend that line really quick. Let's go like this. This and like this. There we go. So now our lines cover the whole screen. We can see it end there. So about here is where we want it to spawn the next one. Around, let's go -110. So if we are less than -110, and our next spawned, and we haven't spawned our next one, false. Then we want to spawn our next one. Meaning create a clone of, well, it will be the next one. Right now we have it set to myself. And then we also want to set our next spawn to true so we don't just spam a bunch of new things over and over and over again because we meet this criteria. We want to stop it. We want it to happen once and then never again. And then we need to do our deletion. Once we get too far off the sides, we want to delete ourselves. I think maybe we'll just do the left side for now. And if we have time, we will do the other side as well. Or the right side, sorry. So if we get too far to the left, let's say we need X position. Our X position is greater than let's see, how far do we want it off the side? Probably about 580. 590 is when it'll despawn. So actually I was right, this does have to be less than. If x position is less than negative 590, then we want to delete it. We will delete this clone. Great. So now let's duplicate this. We can hide ground 2. It has all of the same code as ground 1. We need to change this because this is no longer the first one, this is now the second one. So we will have to spawn it in where it makes sense to. The y can stay the same. The x should be probably as far right as it can go, which is about 600. Alright, so now if I hit play here, hold on, let's make sure both of these are disabled. Okay, we hit play, we spawn, and we can start moving to the right. And it doesn't work. Great, let's figure it out why it doesn't work. Okay, so some debugging later, and I've figured out two big things. First of all, ground 1 has to create a clone of ground 2, not itself. And second of all, I needed to initialize next spawn and start it as false. So it was starting as true from the last time it ran. And we don't want that, we want it to start as false. So I've just put this set next spawn into each of these grounds here, and it should work very well. I've also done some changes into the ground and made them each a little bit different. So let's see how that works. We can now move along, and it is spawning it in, but it's a little bit far away, it seems. Far away from the first one, at least. As well as our Y. Oh, I'm noticing it's not deleting them either. That is probably this number here, this X position. I don't think the sprite can get that far to the left, so it's never actually triggering this. I just make this a little bit shorter. X position equals less than negative 580 instead of 590. Let's see if that works. Let's see if it'll trigger. That's a problem, but it does look like it's deleting the ones in the back now. One other thing you may have noticed, oh look, ground 2 didn't delete because I didn't change that number here. Let's do that for this and ground 3. 580. Alright. Hit this start key again. And any good program will always have problems with it. It's just part of the programming process, is debugging. So our next issue we have to tackle is when we're up in the air, it doesn't spawn the next one at the right height. See how this next layer is really high? Because it's always spawning it at Y29, even though we've pushed that Y down, or up, I guess, in this case. Alright. So I think to fix that, we're going to create a new variable. This will be for all sprites, and I'm just going to call it current Y. We are going to set our current Y all the time. It'll be changing constantly, and we're going to set our current Y to our Y position. And then actually I'm going to take this out, duplicate it, and we're going to plop this into each one of our grounds. And fit it in right down here in each of them. Next, what we're going to do is go back into our variables and just plop our current Y into our spawning location. So no matter where our Y is at on here, it'll always spawn at the same location. This goes in up here. And of course, initialization is very important to remember. Our first Y, we don't really know what that'll be right now, so we want to set it when we start the game. And we had that earlier as 29. Let's see if that works now. Ground 1. We still have this gap here. I think that might have been made by me though when I was changing the look of the grounds around. I'll just take a look at that later. We still have a little bit of a height difference here. If I walk straight though without jumping, it does work. It's not nearly as much of a height difference as earlier. Alright, well, it's pretty good now. So as far as bugs go, that's not too bad. You may have also noticed that I connected ground 3 back to ground 2. So now when we cross over the edge of ground 3, it goes back to ground 2, and they just spawn each other over and over and over again. And that's one of the big advantages of using a linked list instead of an array, is you can step back and forth and in between it real easily. Alright, well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something, and have a great day.